Hi everyone, it's Chris from Stamp Blessings, and I'm here with my Wednesday workshop. And this month and next month I'll be coming just twice a month, just because with having a wedding in May 31st, we just have lots going on. But another exciting thing about May is that we're having a new catalog coming out. So if you placed an order with me in the last year for $50 or more, I did already mail those out to you. And if you're looking for a copy, let me know. We have a great shipping deal right now. $75 is free shipping if you go to my website. And for Paper Pumpkin subscribers, you can also get 75% off of the refills and past dies. So it's something worth checking out. So today's card is a bandstand pop-up card, and I had bought my tutorial from another Stampin' Up! Demonstrator named Susan Campfield, and I will tell you that it was definitely worth paying for this tutorial. This card is super easy, but Susan gives you several different ideas on how to use it, and very, very detailed instructions. So I won't be sharing the measurements here since she's, I bought that from her. But if you follow along, I think you'll be able to replicate it, or for sure check out her website because she does sell this. So what I really like about this card though is that it folds flat and fits into a regular A2 envelope. So isn't that great? So imagine getting this in the mail and you get it and you're like, whoa. And this is something that's going to sit on a table or a mantle for a long time. And then you can write your message here on the back. So super cool. So we're going to be making that today. And I'm using Country Flowers again because sadly this is on the last chance list for Stampin' Up! Now. So if you buy the stamp and the dies separately, you'll save about $2 or $3 versus bundling it. And when I get the dies, I like to keep them on the inside of my stamp case so that they all go together. Perfect. So what's nice about this card is you make it just from one sheet of paper. So I love that. I even had room left over for my focal piece. So I'm going to go ahead and get started cutting that. So I started with an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock. And the first thing I want to do is I cut the base. So I need it to be 4 1/4 by 5 3/8. So I'm going to just quickly make that cut. And again, I started my video early. I was planning on saying, introduce yourself. Let me know where you're watching from. If you're watching the replay, go ahead and comment. I would love to know if you have any questions. Share whatever's going on in your life. So again, I got started right away and forgot to say all that. My next cut is going to be 5 3/8, so you just have to make sure that you're looking at the right little eyelashes, as they call them. And that here is my base. Now, what's nice about the Stampin' Up! Cutting machine is that it's got a scoring blade. So I'm going to go ahead and score this panel while I have it here. I need to score it at 3/4. So I'm just going to grab that gray, oops, and that's off camera, and then again at 4 5/8. So 5/8 is just past the half, right? So, and if you weren't sure, you could just flip it around and do that 3/4 line. So now my first part is done. The next thing I need to do is cut the upper and the lower part of the bandstand, these parts. So they measure 1 1/4 by 7, and I'm going to go ahead and cut those quickly. So I need to get my scoring blade out of the way, and then I can just go ahead and quickly pull down 1 1/4 and another, bring it on up, and 1 1/4. And that leaves all of this left over. So that's how I get the rest of my card done. And again, these measure 7 inches. So here I just bring my little handle up, and then I can measure 7 inches. Perfect. So this tool I bought when I was staying with my parents, and it was really handy to have it because usually I have a guillotine cutter, and this here though was easy to travel. I could put it in my suitcase and bring it home, so it was definitely worthwhile. So while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and score these, and they require a couple of scores. So the first score is going to be at 6 1/4. So that part is a little tricky. I'm just getting right into that black part, but it's going to be right there on the line. Make sure I have my scoring blade, and I'm going to just bring it down. The next one is 4 1/2, easy peasy. Go ahead and score that. 2 1/2. Oop, and then I popped this out with all my, so 2 1/2. I've had a busy day today. I've already repaired the screen door, went to the dump. So we're getting the house, ready for guests and stuff. We got to have it picked up. So took an old printer to the dump, and this last one was at 3/4. So I'm going to set that aside and quickly do these one more time. So what else? I went to Michael's, did a return. I had bought some pictures for the bathroom, which my husband said, So they went back. What else did I do? I bought 3 tomato plants for the garden. 2 1/2. Went and got some blinds priced. Holy cow, I cannot believe how much blinds cost nowadays. They quoted me $1,000 for 3 blinds. Obviously, I'm going to shop around. If you've got any blind ideas, let me know. I'd love to hear where to get a good deal on blinds. Okay, that is it for my card. I can't believe it. So I will need to do later some trimming for the DSP to go on top, but I just wanted to get that ready for you to show you there. So let's go ahead and just score those a little bit. Well, I'll do that at the end. Let's do that at the end. So I'm going to set that aside so I have my top and my bottom and my card base. So next I want to start working on my focal point. And on my blog on Monday and then again today, I shared just how to do this kind of metallic look. So I even have like a little bit of a rusty look going on. So what I need to do is go ahead and die cut these. And I'm going to go ahead and die cut this here in green, which I did off camera. So leave that to side. And go ahead and here we go. Ready, easy peasy. So I like to stamp with Memento so that I can use my alcohol inks. And I do have a nice little assortment started of blends, which I'm really liking them. I didn't think I would, and sure enough, of course, I love them. So, all right, so I'm going to just go ahead and take a minute and stamp on top. You can either die cut first and then stamp, or you stamp and then die cut. If I'm doing a big group, I like to die cut because then it just goes quicker, but it is easier sometimes to get it lined up this way, to go stamp it and then die cut it, but it worked out perfect. So I got lucky. And then I'm going to go ahead and ink up this little flower bunch with the rose and these little doodads that I like hanging off. So now I didn't put a sentiment on mine, but you could easily do that. And they're here. It's a little bit tricky. I will show you my little oops. If I wanted to, I could come back and trim it a little bit later, but it's not that bad that I would need to do that, so I'm not going to worry about it. So for this here, let's go ahead and get started on this. And I wanted to start with the grays. So I like to start with my darkest color, which would be the dark smoky slate. And then my second color would be the light smoky slate. And then to kind of blend it all in, I did end up using this light gray granite. And then I also used here my dark soft suede. Okay, so that's going to give me that look of the metal. And I always like to go dark first, so let's go ahead and do that, where I just kind of come in and think, where would the darkest spots be? And that's usually kind of on the end and on the edges of something. And here it shows me a little bit of the darkness, so I'm going to do that there dark, and a little bit dark right here. I can always go back in and add some more dark, but it's hard to take it away. So now I go with my next light one, and I'm going to do the light gray granite and just start pulling that out. If you're familiar with Copic markers, it works pretty much the same way. You just are dragging that ink out. So let's see, this one is going to be the light smoky gray. Yep, and I grabbed the wrong one. I could tell kind of like, that's not blending the way I expected it. So there we go. This is kind of an intermediate color, and that's pulling out that darker gray that I had there. And I like to try and leave a little bit white in the middle, just kind of like as a highlight. And when I do this handle, I would do the same thing. And I'm just going to come in here a little bit, and then blending that out. Super easy. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of that brown in here so that I can get that rust color. And I want the rust to be coming kind of right there and in the corner. Again, rust kind of comes in a little bit at the bottom, and we'll drag it up the side a little bit. So I'm going to just bring that up to the camera so you can see how that's starting. And now I'm going to go ahead and come back in with this lighter gray, the light gray, and kind of bring that in. This time I'm using the smaller tip for a little bit more control. Every time you add a layer though, it does end up making it a little bit darker, so if you don't have all the colors, you can remember that if you go back over it, it's going to end up making it a little bit darker. So, but I'm just trying to blend that rusty color in a little bit so that it kind of doesn't look like it's just sitting on top. And then the very lightest color was actually that one that I'm using. Whoa, I'm a hot mess today. Obviously I did just too much today before coming on camera. But anyway, I'm going to just go ahead and blend this out. And if you do circular motions, you end up kind of even blending it probably a little bit better. It just depends on what kind of look you're looking for. But I like how that's coming out. That came out great. All right, so let's go ahead and do these roses. And again, I have just a few colors, but I have the light cherry cobbler, which is a great rose color. And I'm going to just put some dark color on the outside and a little bit on the inside. And then I'm going to blend that with, I have one more lighter color. And again, if I just had one color, it wouldn't matter at all. And then this is a light petal pink, which when it blends out, it definitely is a different color hue. So, but I like the way it kind of pulls the colors around. And then I'm going to just add a little bit extra red at the end. But I like to just keep moving that around. Look at how much that has lightened now. And my hard marker strokes are starting to disappear, so that's good. So I'm just doing kind of to give you an idea. For these little tiny flowers here, I'm going with the light balmy blue. And I'm just going to kind of quickly add those colors down. These would probably be pretty in a yellow too. They remind me a little bit of the forsythias. Those are long done blooming here though. All right, and a little bit here. And if I go back over later, it'll just get darker in some spots. And then I just want to do a little bit of the green, and I'll go first with, let's see, I've got a light old olive and a dark old olive, so let's go with those two. For that, I'm going to just put down the dark a little bit, and I just put it on the base of the leaf, and then I can pull it the rest up with the lighter color. Last time I got tricked and I thought there was a leaf in there. Ha! But there wasn't. But that's okay. Nobody's going to look that close. So now I can just take that lighter color, and that pulls it right out and gives it some dimension. You can see that this is fast and furious coloring because I want to get to the assembly. And there we go. And I think I would probably just add a little bit more of the red to this rose, just to let it pop a little bit more on the edges. And that gives it just a little bit more brightness. But it doesn't fill the whole thing in. All right, so we're going to just set that aside, and we're going to put this die cut out because we want to give it a little bit dimension. So now let's start cutting our DSP for covering this. So in Susan's sample, she used either DSP for the background or she used embossing, and I really like the distressed tile. This is also on the last chance, but I'm going to go ahead and with that leftover from my original cuts, I have enough to create a background. So I'm going to go ahead and 3D emboss this, and then that gives me this piece right here. So on my sample today, I used the Spotlight on Nature die cuts, and I just die cut it from a leftover piece, and I had a little bit of embossing on the bottom, which I thought looked kind of cool. It makes it look like a little tablecloth or gives it dimension. But for this next one, I wanted to go ahead and try these new dies, and these are from Stampin' Up's new textured note dies. So these are really pretty, and so we're going to build it on this rectangle, but again, I used a little bit of that 3D embossing on this, so I kind of got double effect for it. So this will be later where I build my little teapot on, so I'm going to set that aside. But now I do need to start cutting for my bandstand. So for that measurement here, I am going to cut 3 5/8 by 4 inches. So let's just double check. This should be 4 inches, but I want to make sure. Yep. So, and now I'm going to go by 3 5/8. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a little bit extra. And we're going to go ahead and cut that panel. Okay. And then I do need to put a little piece here and here because everything needs to be covered and pretty. And those are going to be a 1/2 inch each. So I'm going to just come on over and find that 1/2 inch mark. And then I'll have room for one more. I cut it closer, but look at that. That's using all your paper really well. So that's all I have left over from one piece of cardstock to make this card. Kind of fun. So I'm going to just set that aside real quick, and we're going to go ahead and glue these 3 pieces down. So you will have a little bit of a border. That's what you're looking for. And I'm going to go ahead because we want it to be able to fold well. And I'm just going to use some glue. Now when Susan attached her top and bottom folds, as I'm going to do shortly, she did use tear and stick tape. But I think I'm going to just be using glue today since I didn't bring any up. And I like glue too. I just feel like it holds really well. So I'm just making sure that this little panel is centered nicely between the end of the card and that fold. And this will be the back of the bandstand, so that no matter how you look at this card, there's something pretty to look at every angle. Alright, so that's going to set aside and just dry. And now I have to start cutting to cover these little panels. So I really enjoy the mixed media floral paper pack, and this light blue is just gorgeous. On the other side is a nice tulip and pattern, so it was hard to cut into this, but that blue is so pretty that I just couldn't help myself. So I did go ahead. I kept one for cutting, and the other one I kept kind of pristine. So I'm kind of funny about my paper sometimes. So on these little pieces, I'm going to need 1 inch in width. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that first, and then I can start cutting off the smaller pieces. So we're going to go ahead and just, make sure it's nice and straight, and it's not, and just a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to hold that down and then bring this down, and now I can start cutting the little pieces that I need for the top bands. So I'm going to need 4 1 by 1.5 inch pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut 4 of those really quick. And I think I'm going to do is just kind of see if I can slide it along. Yep. And that's 2, 3, and 4. And now I need 2 1 by 1 3/4. So, and that's going to be all I need. 1, and a second one, 1 3/4, and there we go. All right, let's go ahead and quickly glue those to our bands here. So I have the 2 longer ones, which will go in the center. Let's see. And then I have these 2 shorter pieces. I'm going to just go ahead and quickly add that so that we can get to the assembly part. Well, thanks for hanging in with me this long. I had seen these cards online, and they really were just such a great variety. You can do a birthday card. These would make a great Christmas card. If you need a sympathy card, they sadly would make a nice sympathy card. Just even a thinking of you card. It's kind of like I put on my blog today. Thinking of you cards are sometimes the best because you're not expecting them, and all of a sudden there they are in your mailbox, and they're really fun to open up. So we're almost done with that. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and score it with my bone folder, because I didn't do that before I assembled it last time, and I felt like I had to really kind of maneuver it. And that could be because I didn't really read all the directions, but that's possible. So I'm going to just take a moment and score those with my bone folder so that when I assemble this, it's going to be already taking shape. So as complicated as this card looks, you can see that it's actually really quite easy to assemble. And now we're going to go ahead and bring in our base, and I want to go ahead and score that as well. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and start assembling this. So I've got my bands, and I need a top band and I need a bottom band. I'm going to go ahead and get those kind of in position. Right, just kind of lay it up and match the bottom, the edge there. And I want to have it a little bit centered. And now this is where I'm going to just use my glue and put a little glue down. You can just kind of hold it right there. A little glue. Start grabbing things to hold it while I do the rest. Now I want to make sure that this is in line, because of course it wants to fit into our envelope. I just want to make sure that this is lined up pretty good. Yeah. There we go. All right, now a little glue there, a little glue here. And then while we are assembling that final focal pattern, this can just sit and kind of get stuck together. I'm going to put my markers on top of that, and that'll kind of hold it in place. Perfect. One more heavy thing. Nice. Hopefully I didn't create a booby trap. All right, so we have our focal pattern, our focal piece. And so I want to just do a quick dry layout to kind of get an idea of where I want this to be. And because this is a little bit taller than this round one, I could either put a sentiment on a sentiment strip sticking out, or here they have a nice like sending love for that. And then there's of course best friend ever. So you could even put best friend in that little part. Let's see if the sending love will fit. It might not. Ooh, it will. So let's go ahead and stamp that, because that's just so pretty, and then it makes it just a little bit different than my sample card. Okay, so we're going to get that on first. That way by putting it on, we can build the rest around it. And now I'm going to put my teapot on. Actually, these flowers, we make sure these leaves don't go too high. That looks great. Perfect. So now I'm just going to kind of lift and move things around a little bit. And for this, I can just give it a little bit quick glue. What I like about glue is it gives me a little time to just move it around a little bit. And I'm going to just put some glue on a couple of these leaves. And go as high up as I can without getting into the sentiment. And now a little bit here. And look at how quickly this card has come together. Beautiful. I just really like this teapot with that floral arrangement. I'm just so sad that this is going away. Well, let's see how we can now assemble that. Here already is the way my bandstand card is coming together. And I will tell you, by taking that time to score it, I feel like I got a much flatter and crisper look than my original. So that was worth it, taking that time to score it. Now I just want to see how I want to place this. It's going to go like that, or I could even put it down a little bit, but I think I like it centered. And let's just put a little glue here and here. That way I don't have to guess where it belongs. There we go. And I did forget to do one thing, so I'm going to just set this on here and show you what I need to do on the back. Because we have those little tabs attached, it's a nice idea to finish the card with just these two little pieces of DSP. So I went with this a little bit more bolder pattern because I felt like it picked up the rose and the greens and the blues. And that way I could just keep saving, I guess, my my pretty blue paper. I want to keep every bit of it. So let's go ahead and quickly cut that last piece. So for that I'm going to use, and I already have one piece left over, but this is going to measure, it measures 5/8 by 4 inches, and I just need 2 of those. I'm just going to move this over a second, but that's drying really nicely. So I need 5/8, and then it's going to be measuring 4. So let's go real quick. And you want to make sure that your pattern is vertical. So just quickly snip at 4. And then we'll finish the card, and that is it. I'd love to hear if you end up trying one of these cards, or what idea do you have that would be nice to, what stamp set are you thinking about trying? Because there's so many good ones. You really want it something that is bold enough to show up. But so let's go quickly see, we want to cover up these strips. It just makes it a little bit nicer. So I'm going to just put some glue here and a little glue here. Fast and Furious. I'm going to cover up that one. And it really just does a nice job of hiding this. And I'm going to use this piece because it's really bold and pretty. And I'm going to put that there. And now I have my second pop-up, bandstand pop-up card. So, do you have a favorite? Do you like the circle focal point, or do you like the rectangular one? So I like this part, but I think I like the way that the circle looks on this end. Well, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe so that you'll see when I come back and post another video. And as always, I always appreciate your comments and if you share my site with others. Take care and have a great rest of the day. And the weekend is almost here.